It was not just about the laziness. I think I was living in fear. Yeah. Even if I try, it's not going to happen. I know who I am. Even if I try, I'm not going to be able to get to the finish line. I'm just going to stop halfway through. The only thing I had was 3 suitcases. And I only had $1,500. Yeah. And I was really scared. Oh my God, okay. After I land, what am I going to do? That was my turning point. Wow. Yeah. If I change, everything around me changes. My environment changes. Wow.
From SGI USA, I'm Cassidy Bradford, and this is Buddhability, the weekly series where I talk with Buddhists from all walks of life about the power we each have to change our lives and the world around us. All right, welcome, Daeseon. Thank you so much for joining the Buddhability podcast. And of course, we know each other because we're both in New York City. So for folks listening that don't know who you are, you can just introduce yourself. So you can share just a little bit about who you are and maybe kind of how you grew up, how you were introduced to Buddhism.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, I'm really excited to share a little bit about my story. So I was born and raised in Korea, and I moved to this country 4 years ago. Yeah, so I grew up in a really, just happy family. My mom is always happy. My mom has always been really caring. But, there was always some, ups and downs, some obstacles, down the road. But my parents have always been really trying to keep the harmony in the family. Yeah, so I'm really glad that I grew up in that environment. Yeah. But when I was growing up, so my family was really poor, financially, we're really struggling. And then because of that, I was always getting out of track. I was not really studying. I was not really a good kid. I was, doing what I was not supposed to do as a student, and then, I was never home, very rebellious, Yeah, but my mom is a strong Buddhist practitioner, and she was always compassionate with me, really trying to get me back on the track, trying to get me to do, what I was supposed to do, which I really appreciate. Yeah, of course, my dad was always trying as well, even though he doesn't really practice, but, he's always supportive, because he knows the value of the practice, chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and then, that's how I grew up, and, I was just I've been around, the practice the whole life, but I didn't practice or, chant just by myself on my own. Until I turned 24. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened at 24?
It was I was just really struggling with depression, and then low energy. I just didn't feel like doing anything, but I knew what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, but I was just dealing with this low energy. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to do anything. I just want to get up around noon and just, I would just go to a bar with my friend, just drink all night and get home. I was especially in my senior year, I think in college, I was really struggling. Yeah. Even though I had a really just specific career path. Yeah. Because I went to physical therapy school. Yeah. But still I was really struggling. Yeah. Deep inside, I wasn't born to be a physical therapist. It's just part of my life.
Yeah.
It was the purpose of my, the true purpose of my life. I was kind of seeking. Yeah, but I couldn't really quite, find the answer.
Yeah. And
then one day I was kind of dragged to this local Buddhist community meeting by my mom. And I went there, and then there was this guy was really, I don't know how to say it. I just talked to him for 5 minutes after the meeting. This guy's man, I can't trust this guy for some reason. Yeah, and he just really listens, very calm. Man, and he was and after that 5-minute conversation, he was man, you want to go to a meeting? for like young men? When? Right now. But
Wow.
I would have said no.
Yeah.
But because it was this guy, okay, let me give it a try. Yeah. So I got in the car, but on the way it was at the Buddhist center. Yeah. And then on the way there, I was like, man, I'm never going to make the same mistake again. I'm going to say no next time.
Agreeing to go to a Buddhist meeting.
Yeah, I'm so stupid. Why did I say that,
Yeah.
Why did I say yes? Oh, man, yeah. But I went there, and this meeting, we just circled around, sitting around in a circle, and then we just had like a real talk. I've never met these guys before, but they're sharing their struggles, just like no ego, just like, yo, I'm struggling with this and that, so everyone talked, about their struggles and like, but every single one of them ended with a determination, but I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna overcome this obstacle, and then I'm gonna achieve this. And it was my turn. All I shared was just like complaints. I'm struggling with this because of that. I'm struggling with that because of this. That was my life, and no determination. And then on the way back home, I was just reflecting. Man, those guys were so inspiring. But what am I creating? What value am I creating in my life now? Man, yeah, and I started to feel some. I was kind of embarrassed about myself. Yeah, man, I'm like, gotta do something. Yeah, I think I found the answer. It was always there in my life. Yeah, but I always took it for granted. Okay, let me give chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo a try. Yeah. And then, like I mentioned, it was a senior year. And then I was about to take the physical therapy, national exam, to get the license. And I was like, studying that, but still I was not really feeling the joy, in studying. So anyway, I just started with 15 minutes chanting. Okay. But after that, I felt like, I felt kind of calm and some peace, and some hope, and oh, okay, but I can chant a little more. I chanted 30 minutes, and I felt great. It's so missed. I just felt like studying. Yeah, I went to the library. I just studied really hard.
Wow.
I felt great. I felt like I created something out of my life. Okay, that's great. Let me just do this a couple more days. And it became months. Yeah. Now it became years.
Yeah.
Now I want to do it forever. I don't want to stop. Yeah. Wow. And then that was my actually first conspicuous benefit from this practice. I chanted, I studied really hard, and then I came into the first place out of 5,000 exam takers.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was like, this is insane. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm never gonna stop chanting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, just a lot of benefits. So, so far. And then, yeah. That's how I grew up, and, what I struggled with.
I feel like I've never, I've heard maybe bits and pieces about this, but it's really incredible too that it just took kind of one person that you felt something about them I can really trust. And they're seeing in me this, that I'm struggling and this possibility for my life. And you just had to be open just a sliver, okay, fine, I'm gonna go to this meeting. Oh, actually, I really don't want to be there.
If you felt that before, yeah.
Yeah. But that, seeing other people that are also struggling, because Buddhists also, we always have, problems in our life, but like you said, the difference was sharing that, but then having some sort of determination, okay, but I'm really gonna win. I feel like that, I can imagine that being a bit of a wake-up call. Oh, my life is so just shrouded in complaint and not realizing there's kind of an other way. One question I have is, you said before you started chanting, even though you knew what you wanted to do career-wise, you like didn't feel any sense of like fulfillment or maybe purpose. Did that change through chanting? And like, if so, what did that sense of purpose or fulfillment actually look like?
Well, it was not just about the laziness. Yeah, I think I was living in fear. Yeah, even if I try, it's not gonna happen. You know, I know who I am. You know, even if I try, you know, I'm not gonna be able to like get to the finish line. I'm just gonna like stop halfway through, and then I'm just gonna, you know, feel discouraged. I was having just like this fear, worries. You know, it was not just a laziness. And I think that kind of made me lazy.
Yeah.
As well.
I feel like laziness is, for me, I always think like, oh, I'm just lazy. But there's always like something underneath, right? Like what's causing me to like not want to act.
Yeah. You know, and then when I chanted, like I mentioned, it's really hard to describe this feeling.
Yeah.
I feel just hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It starts like this, like, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can give it a try at least. And it kind of like builds up over time. Yeah. And then like at the end, like, you know what, I can definitely do it. You know, no matter what happens, even if I fail, I'm not going to give up. Yeah. I'm just going to keep going, you know? Yeah. I think it builds up always, you know, in every aspect of my life. It always builds up like this as I chant, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. At the end, I always like achieve something. Yeah. Sometimes even greater than what I wanted. Yeah. And then these experiences like accumulate.
With time, you start to see like more, like have bigger and bigger dreams too. Like I feel like, oh wow, I look back and realize I accomplished all of this stuff, and now maybe I can have a dream that's a little bit bigger. And actually this morning I was at like a local like Buddhist discussion meeting, and a woman who's been practicing a really long time was talking about how when she first started practicing, and I think, you know, to today, she always would ask herself, am I going to choose fear or faith? And I thought, wow, that's so great, because it always is that kind of decision point, right? Am I going to give into my fear and like lack of confidence, or am I going to have faith and like conviction in myself? So when you mentioned fear, I just was like taken back to that, because as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, I have to write that down. That's the decision point. Am I taking fear or faith? And so, yeah, like as you have been like developing your faith in yourself and your confidence more, I'm imagining you had bigger goals and dreams in your life, and you're no longer in Korea. You came to the US, like you said, about 4 years ago. So tell me that story. Like, why did you decide to come to the US? What did that look like?
Well, living in the US was always one of my dreams, one of my biggest dreams. Yeah. But, you know, just like I mentioned, I had this fear, you know, not just the US, like living in another country, speaking another language, you know, it takes a lot of courage, but I didn't have that. There was no way to get that. Yeah. But chanting was the way, which I was really happy about. I said to Chan, you know what? Yeah, it was always my dream for a long time. Let me start from chanting, you know? It's free. Okay, I started chanting. And then I think my life was kind of, especially in that dream, it was like all over the place. You know, then as I chanting, there were like all the pieces like in here, like to visualize it. You know, they're like getting put together, like puzzle. And then and I listed out like what I had to do to come here. But it's not easy, especially the English. So I never spoke English. Oh, I'm 31 now. I never spoke English before 26.
Really?
I don't think I ever talked to someone who spoke English. Just...
Wow.
It was a big challenge.
Oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that.
It was the biggest fear, like, me speaking another language? Living there, working, you know, with... you know, people who don't speak Korean, you know? But like, really, no. just chant it, and it's just like trying to like summon up the courage, you know. Every single day, I would just wake up with this fear. Yeah, that's why there's someone told me, one of my Buddhist friends, you know what, you have to chant in the morning. That's how you get the engine started, you know. Then you can really just live your life to the fullest every day. And I really just like took it to my heart. Okay, so I'll do it. Yeah, chant it every morning. Try to get rid of that fear. Yeah. And I did that for 2 years. Yeah, every day, like no exception. And then I was able to get the high enough score for this English test called TOEFL. That you have to take to study in college in the US. Yeah. So, which I was really happy about, like really, wow, that like sense of fulfillment. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was able to really, it was a moment that I really deepened my faith. Wow, if you chant, it happens. So English was just like one of the challenges. Another thing was the tuition. Oh my God, like the tuition,
school in the US is
tuition, oh my God, it was
wild.
Like,
yeah,
and then it was a grad school.
Oh,
yeah, so
it's even harder.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. I didn't have that money, but I didn't want to give up because of the money. You know, money comes and goes. You know, like okay, it's gonna come if I. But you know, I didn't have that money just like out of the blue. I didn't get the money out of the blue, but actually, I was able to borrow that money from someone. Yeah, which was my aunt actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which I really appreciate. So yeah, so I was able to come, and another challenge was my visa. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything wrong, you know, in Korea. But what happened was it was a COVID. Yeah, it was 2020 when the pandemic just like.
Wow, what a time to try and come to the U.S.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't give student visas. Yeah, which never happened before. Yeah, and then while I was supposed to start my school in like August, but I couldn't get the visa until like July. Yeah, so oh my, what am I supposed to do? But I really kept chanting. And 2 weeks before I started school, I got the visa, and I came, and on the plane, I was the only regular person, I think. Everybody else was U.S. Army. Yeah, I think it was just like 15 people in the whole plane.
Whoa.
And the social distancing, it was like first class. Yeah, the whole row was just me. Yeah. Yeah, front the bags empty, it was great. That's how I came. But the reason why I wanted to, there was another motivation to come to the US. It was, so one time I was encouraged to read this book from the Buddhist community. It's called New Human Revolution. It's actually from my mentor, Daeseon Kim. Yeah, he wrote this book. It's a novel, but it's his like own story. So it was actually volume 1, the first volume. Yeah, and it was talking about like world peace that I was never interested in, honestly. You know, because I only care for my life. You know. Yeah. Yep. They're like, wow, it's like I was able to really just like expand my life through reading that book. Wow, maybe I can do more in my life. Yeah, not just like getting by, you know. Yeah. And I was reading that, and actually he was traveling, all over the U.S. Trying to really spread this amazing practice, and you know, trying to like help people become happy. And I was like, wow, if I can do that like him, I think I got like goosebumps while reading that. Man, if I can do this too, that'd be great. And also all his effort, you know, and then all his like hard work, trying to like just build the foundation in this country, you know, this practice. So like, I was just like fascinated, you know, by that. That was another like motivation. Like, wow, let's go. That was the sense of purpose. They really helped me to get through all the things. I always wanted to come to the U.S., but just with this, you know, I wouldn't be able to make it here, you know. But there was this sense of purpose. Because they were like, they were like a good pair. I had a dream at the same time, you know, the sense of purpose. Like, okay, let's go.
Actually, like for the podcast, I was talking to someone else about when our goals, even if there's something we want, because it's oftentimes hard to, accomplish our dreams, if we don't have like a really clear sense of purpose that can like push us through that, then it's nearly impossible to like really accomplish our goals. Like you said, like it might have been impossible to really go through all of the financial, the visa, the TOEFL exam without this sense of like greater meaning or purpose behind it. And I find, and I think this is definitely the case for people that practice Buddhism, like tying our goals and things that we want in our life to the betterment of like society and to world peace. And then like your personal goals become so much like more expansive, so much bigger than just your own life. And I feel like, that can always motivate me. If I'm like really feeling like stuck or like lazy, sometimes I realize like, oh wow, I'm so just absorbed in myself. That's why, and if I'm just doing it for myself, I'm fine, like kind of suffering,
Kind of suffering.
Kind of suffering. So I really love that you shared that, because I think it's so crucial, I think, for us to really be able to like keep fighting. And of course chanting, like as we chant, we remind ourselves of that kind of like greater purpose. So when you come to the US, I mean, it was 2 weeks before school started, like that's kind of crazy. Like were you prepared? Like
not at all. I was like, because I was kind of preparing to postpone,
Wow.
my admission. Because like I got no visa, I can't go.
can't
So like
get on
maybe
the plane.
like November, December, I was like, I was prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for the visa. So I was like, packing up, like, what am I supposed to do now, with my poor English skills, like calling here and there in Georgia, like, actually I went to school in Georgia, by the way. It's like in the middle of nowhere, countryside, and like calling all the,
Did you live in Korea? Were you like in a like city kind of like urban? Okay. So big change.
Very different. And they're calling, all the apartments, just like no vacancies there, just like, because like 2 weeks before, which is normal, right? But still, you know what? I have this practice. I know it's like kind of unreasonable, but I have to go. Even if I know there are struggles already waiting for me that I can see coming. But, because of the training, in my life, so I got through the test, English test, and then the tuition and all the obstacles, you know what? This is nothing. I'm going to do it. I was able to overcome this fear again through chanting. And then, I got on the plane with those like U.S. Army guys. And then landed, I was really just chanting on the plane. Because I was actually very nervous. The only thing I had was 3 suitcases. And I only had like $1,500. And I was like, I was really scared. Oh my God, okay. After I land, what am I going to do?
And no place to live, right?
No place to live. And then no friends, no connections, no family, no relatives, no money, no car. I got nothing.
Oh my God, I'm so like terrified just listening to this.
I said, but I'm going to do it. And I landed, right? But someone called me, through this like app. Like there's like an app like called Kakao Talk. It's like WhatsApp. Someone called me through it. I was like, oh, who is that? It was actually one of my professors. He was waiting for me to pick me up.
Wow.
I was like, what? Wow. And then that airport was like just silent. I was hearing my footsteps, like, poo, 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 because there was no one there because of the pandemic. And he was waiting there to pick me up. Like, what? And it was like, okay, so where are you heading now? I said, I don't know.
I don't know.
But I did reach out to some guy, around campus, who was looking for a roommate. I reached out to him like, hey, I'm looking for a room, if you're available today, can I check it out? Yeah, sure, come over. And then, and I went there, right? But, I couldn't really understand it. I just landed. I'm Korean, I don't speak English, man. I took the test though,
Yeah.
But I never spoke to any Americans, Okay, man, but I couldn't understand at all. But my professor was there, right? So he helped me a lot. But actually, for a couple of days, for the next couple of days, he was not really responding to me. Hey, can I move in? What do you think? Was kind of ghosting me. A couple of days later, it was like, you know what? Actually, my old roommate is coming back. Okay. This is a sign. I should have lived there. Okay, trying to stay positive. And then at the time, I was living in this motel, which was crappy, overpriced motel. And then I couldn't even go outside to get snacks. I was looking out the window. I see this gas station with the convenience store in it, but I couldn't go there. I just couldn't go outside. I was so scared. Yeah. It's so I couldn't get snacks for 2 days, which I really wanted some chips, but I couldn't get them.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared. Yeah.
Wow.
I just chanted there, I'm going to break through. I don't know how, but I'm going to break through. Then actually one of my, that professor, called me. You know what? He made some plan and told me that, so okay. So I just rented a car, and then I moved to this guest house, which was Korean. Yeah, the owner was Korean, and I felt really more comfortable. Okay, and then with that car, I was able to travel back and forth, to the campus and then to the guest house. Okay, that's great. And one day, I went to the campus, and I was searching for apartments and any rooms, available. And then there was this website, where people post their, oh, I'm looking for roommates now. Call me, and then some description about themselves. And then I think I reached out to 30, 40 guys. Yeah. And everybody rejected me.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I said, oh, I'm Korean. Yeah, I don't think they were really just welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I understood. Okay. Yeah. And then there was this last posting that I really didn't want to reach out to. This guy, no photo. The only post that didn't have photo. Yeah, right?
Yeah, red flag.
Yeah, no photo, no description. Looking for a roommate. Call me. His number. Bam, that's it. Okay. I chanted. Okay, but that's the only option. Yeah, there's no other option. I have to go back home. Okay, I'm going to call this guy. I called him. Then, hey, I heard you're looking for a roommate. Yeah. So, can I go check it out now? Okay, come 20 minutes later, I went there. He opened the door. He looked a little different, He was a student from a different country.
Oh.
Yeah. So, wow, immediately, we didn't even start the conversation. Immediately, we relate to each other. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find, international students there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, I checked out the room. It was great. And he was a bit older than me. He was very mature. And we started talking. And I, asked him what he studied. Oh, I studied physical therapy. That's crazy. He was in the same program.
Oh my God.
He just started 1 semester earlier than me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In the apartment, everything was already set. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I moved in right away. And we still keep in touch. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I met the best friend. Yeah, ever. Yeah. My first best friend in the US. This guy, he started earlier than me, so he knew about just everything. How to get straight A's. For this professor, you gotta study like this. Essay, you gotta write essays like this. So I got straight A's. Thanks to him. And then I was able to graduate. On time. Actually, quicker than any other international students in the program.
Wow.
Thanks to him, actually. Yeah, and then, like I mentioned, everything was already set. The kitchen, yeah. How when you get an apartment, it's just empty, nothing,
bare,
right?
yeah.
It was just, all furnished, yeah.
Wow.
It's wow, 남이 호르게 겨. Yeah, and then he helped me like make a bank account. Just imagine you go to like Taiwan, yeah, the countryside, and you have to make a bank account in Taiwanese.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like nerve-wracking. But this guy was with me, whatever I had to do, it was always with me, supporting me. I had to do just everything, I was able to just like get everything done. Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
that is
like
so
even greater
wild.
benefit that I ever imagined. Like,
Yeah. Wow. There are so many times that like whatever results like happen are sometimes so beyond what we could imagine. Like, I would have never thought, Daeseon is gonna find a roommate on this thing and he's gonna be international and it's gonna have everything you could have possibly wanted that you didn't even know you wanted. That's really so incredible. It must have made you feel really like gain even more confidence, I imagine, like in those 2 years of like, wow, if I chant, like I can do anything. Anything is possible. Wow. And of course you were in Georgia, you're now in New York, and I know like when you came to New York you started to, maybe I'll say like, engage more deeply in human revolution, which is like is a Buddhist concept that just means like inner transformation. And because I don't want to speak for you, but maybe you can share like when you came to New York, how you started to see maybe some tendencies of your life that caused some unhappiness. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, of course. To cut to the chase, I was just so arrogant.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah. I was terrible, and I didn't realize that. Yeah, I did through this practice. Yeah, and I'm still work in progress, but definitely better than before, I think. Yeah, even though I was practicing, still my life was like full of complaint still. Yeah, blaming my environment. I don't have money. I don't have this, I don't have that, that's why I'm unhappy. And even at work too, my boss is not giving me a raise and I'm doing my best. Yeah. And one time I was like kind of organizing this big Buddhist meeting. Yeah. And I had to really unite with the people there, but I couldn't. Yeah. I thought it was my friend, not me. I thought I was doing great. Yeah. And then one time, one of my friends there, took the courage to tell me that, it's me. It was me. Yeah. Yeah. That was really shocking to me. I was showing a lot of like resistance to it too, Yeah. But I really appreciate it now because he took that courage to say that, because he really, really just cares for me. And then after that, because it was so shocking, it just stuck to my head. Yeah, and then whenever I chanted, I was always just thinking about it, like really it's me. Then I realized it was me, totally, 200%. Yeah, and then I was like, started to think about, okay, so what am I going to do, about this? Yeah, I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to really unite with the people here. Yeah, and then that meeting went really well. Yeah, because I was able to, and then I was so joyful. Yeah. Because there was no complaint, there was no resentment, there was no regret. Because I really try to unite with the people, try to understand each other, try to talk, have dialogue. Yeah, so that was my like turning point. Wow, yeah. If I change, everything around me changes. My environment changes. Wow, I learned that Buddhism, like our practice, and our daily life shouldn't be separate. Yeah. Okay, so I learned this in this Buddhist community. Okay, I'm gonna apply this to my work. Yeah. One thing I realized was I wasn't really listening to my boss. Yeah. But but he was always the one who was trying to support me, trying to help me to be a better physical therapist, because I didn't know anything. I just came here, but I was so arrogant, I know everything. I just graduated, and I remember everything.
I got all A's.
Yeah, I got straight A's, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and then I started to listen to him. Yeah. And then, and I found myself really just like improving so quickly. After I decided to really listen to him and really just work with him. And then also my mentor, Ikeda Daisaku, read this on, in one of his books. Like, you just have to go all out, whatever you're doing, at each moment. And when it comes to like mastering time, we all have 24 hours. But it's not about the number, 1 minute, 2 minutes, but it's about the moment. Yeah. At this moment, just do your best, give it all out. Okay, I'm gonna go all out at work. Yeah, no hold back, And then I, decide to get to work like 30 minutes early. I'm always on the dot, Yeah. Yeah, 30 minutes early, have everything just like ready. Wait for my boss. That was my first plan. Okay, like, I'm gonna do that, and really just greet my boss. Really respect him. Like, hey, how are you? Good morning. I'm so excited to work today. Yeah, and that really actually made me excited. Yeah. I just joyfully worked. I lost track of time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Always like have fun talk with my patients. They're like, oh, already 7. Oh, already 8. I gotta go home now. Yeah. I wouldn't mind working more. Yeah. Even though I don't get paid like overtime, it didn't matter because I was so joyful at work. And he started to see me like changing, I think, too. Yeah. I mean, he never told me that, but I think. And then last year I got a raise. Yeah, and then I got promoted. Yeah.
Wow.
To like a managerial position. Yeah. So yeah, through the practice was a moment, that I was able to show the actual proof. Yeah. Yeah, really just applying the concept of this Buddhism to my daily life.
It's such a great, like, kind of clear connection too between like you really trying to like change yourself and how then you see the results kind of like reflected in your life, in your relationships, in your work. One question I have is like, I also struggle with arrogance. I compare myself to people all the time. Either I think I'm better than them or I think they're better than me. And like it can be really hard to see something about yourself that is like not nice, like for me at least. So I'm wondering like I don't know what you would say for somebody that like maybe is not wanting to face something about their life.
I think the guy who told me that, I'm pretty sure he just chanted a lot for me. Yeah. You know how like one day I learned, someone told me like I was like struggling with this like specific person. We had a lot of like conflict,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I disliked them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I wanted to make the relationship better. Yeah. And then I asked one of my Buddhist friends, what do you do in this situation? Oh, you got to chant for their happiness. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have to chant for my happiness.
Yeah, they're in the wrong.
Yeah. And then they're like, when you change, they change too. Yeah, you're Buddhist, man. Okay. Yeah. And then I started chanting, after the experience too. I think he did that for me, Yeah, he really chanted. I mean, I'm not saying he disliked me, Yeah. But with that compassion,
Yeah.
Oh, I see this part of his life. Oh, I really want to help him, break through that, change that. And I think he was really thinking about that while chanting. And then he came up to me, But because I think when you talk to someone, when you really chant for someone's happiness and talk to them, I think there's this like heart-to-heart connection. You kind of feel it. Yeah, it's hard to describe. Yeah, and then when he was talking to me, because he was like the leader of like organizing that meeting. Yeah. And then I had to really just unite with him. He could have been just angry about me, not doing that, right? But when he was talking to me, there was no anger at all. He was really just full of compassion. Man, I really, really want to win together with you, man. Like, let's do it. Yeah. So he was very calm and like he could have said that in front of everyone. Yeah, but he pulled me aside and like he was so busy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but he took his time out of his busy schedule to talk to me about it. So yeah, really, I think when you see someone like that, I think we definitely have to start chanting. We have to start from like chanting for their happiness. Yeah, and then
I just think about like challenging relationships in my life where like I have to like organize someone with something and our personalities are just like so different, or they do this thing that really annoys me, or my partner or my sibling. Like if I just without chanting like go into the interaction, I'm just doing my same kind of like tendencies, or if I'm like arrogant, creating like distance between us, and kind of like minimizing who they are. But when I can chant about it and chant about their happiness, like so much compassion comes out of my life and ego kind of disintegrates. It becomes so much easier to just be like real with somebody and not like so concerned about like how they're gonna respond. So I really love that you shared that, because I think that is so crucial. Are there any, like at that time when you started to realize like, oh wow, maybe I need to change, were there any things that like you were studying or like Buddhist concepts that helped you kind of think about like your arrogance or doing your human revolution, anything that helped kind of like motivate you?
I can't think of like a specific thing out of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But one thing is I just love chanting. I just chanted. Yeah, we call this inner transformation like human revolution, right? Yeah. I was just like, I want to do human revolution. I want to do human revolution, I want to change my life, Yeah, I don't want to get stuck here. It's just like it was simple. I want to do human revolution. I want to be a better person. Yeah, that. And of course, along the way, there are some like, my mentor's quotes, like about like inner transformation, my attitude, at work, and towards others, But I can't really think of like specific quote now. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely like chanting and, studying about this specific topic. Yeah. I was really just seeking like, so flipping the pages, like, it's the best quote for me today, Every day. Yeah.
Wow. That's so, it's so simple, but like, it's so true. And sometimes it's challenging, but like pairing when you chant, like you are experiencing hope, your life is really opening up, and you study things that help you like, okay, motivate, push, just one more step forward or go just a little bit deeper. And our lives with time like become so much richer and we become so much happier. Like oftentimes like I'll feel resistance at first, like I don't want to change, like they need to change. But actually it's like so freeing when you're like, oh, they don't need to change. Actually, I can just change. And that will have the result, whatever kind of change I want to see in my environment has to come from me first. So now, like, you've got your promotion and a raise. What kind of like goals or dreams do you have now?
Well, I had another goal last year and that achieved. It was my green card. Yeah. It was also with this like sense of purpose. The book I read, like my mentor, like traveling all the country, and with that sense of purpose, I really just like fought for it. And I got it. So I'm really happy for that. So now, my dream is I really want to find best partner. Who has the same value. I can live towards that value. With together. Another goal is in my career. Of course, I want to make more money, but I really want to be more trusted. At work, wherever I go. yeah, still trying to figure out like the specific goal for my career at the moment. And then I want my family to be more harmonious. Yeah. So in April this year, I'm going to Korea. And then, we're going to go on a trip to Japan together, family trip. Yeah,
wow.
My parents and my sister. And then my sister and I are like just planning all things, And then, that process itself is so joyful,
Wow.
Doing something with my sister, and then like, I'm so happy about that too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's, I don't know, kind of striking me that like, your like earlier kind of goals for your life were like, okay, this thing that I have to like really like, crawl toward and keep going. And as you've been able to like accomplish more and more, your dreams are more like, or the way that you talk about them is like, wow, I just want to be even happier. Like, I just want, to be even more joyful and expand my life even more, which is really like, so wonderful. And you mentioned like wanting to become even more trusted in your workplace. So that kind of brings me to my last question, which is, of course, a piece of advice. So what advice would you give to someone that really wants to be a trusted person in their workplace, their family, whatever, but is always seeming to like have conflict?
I see. I mean, if I were to answer those questions, I'm not sure if I'm in a position like that. Honestly, trying to be humble now,
Yeah, you're right. No arrogance. This is advice for yourself, actually.
Yeah, arrogance go away, Yeah. Advice to myself, yes.
Yeah. That's the way you can take it.
Yeah, well put. Okay. First, just really trying your best to, whatever you're doing in family, romantic relationship, at work, and friendship, at that moment, just give it all in. Yeah. I think then, to be a trusted, person, you have to gain trust from others, right? And then also when you have, any conflict with your peers, then, people around you, let's just like, please try chanting, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo for their happiness. It's really hard. Yeah. Still struggling, of course, me as well. But then I think when you're chanting for someone's happiness, then really you start to like understand the person. Yeah, at a deeper level. Yeah. Not just like, we get angry at someone because of what they did to us, their actions. It's very superficial, I think, But at a deeper level, when you get to really understand that person, I think, from there, and then, like I mentioned, if you really chant for them, I think you really connect with the universe, I think, too. Yeah. You have this, when you meet them after that, then you feel this connection. You and, that person, I think, I recommend that.